CreepyCorner stories.
Hey everyone, welcome back to CreepyCorner stories. You know, diving into the dark web is always risky, but sharing these stories with you makes it worth it. I'm curious, where are you watching this from right now? Let me know in the comments below. I've noticed that these kinds of stories hit differently depending on where you are. It might even make the experience a little creepier. So, tell me, are you watching from the safety of your home or somewhere less secure? I went to a rave I found on the dark web, an abandoned factory. It burned down and I saw something terrifying in the fire. Alright, so before I start, I just want to say, I'm not some dark web hacker or edgy teenager trying to be cool. I'm just a regular guy, 24, work from home, mess around on Reddit and Discord too much, and sometimes dive a little too deep into weird parts of the internet when I'm bored. This all started a few months ago. It was early October, like right before Halloween. I live in Detroit. Yeah, that Detroit. And while a lot of people think it's all crime and broken buildings, it's actually got this gritty underground vibe that's kind of electric, especially if you're into music, which I am. I DJ a little on the side, not like main stage at Coachella or anything, but enough to get invited to some local gigs. One night, I was up at like 2 a.m., half asleep scrolling through a weird Discord server I got invited to by some guy at a previous show. The server was full of rave flyers, secret parties, urban legends, stuff like, come to this party under the bridge, wear all white, or rave in an abandoned subway tunnel in NYC. It was mostly harmless, probably just people trying to make things sound cooler than they were. But then I saw this link. No description, just a glitchy GIF of a strobe light flickering over a creepy looking factory with a caption that said, Synthgrave, one night only, entry via .onion. It was a dark web link. Yeah, I know, that should have been my red flag. But I was bored. Curiosity kills cats and keeps humans up at night. I fired up Tor, plugged in the link, and landed on a minimalistic site with black and red text. Looked like something out of a 2000s hacker movie. It just said, invite only, Saturday, 10 p.m., Detroit Industrial Sector C. No phones, no signal, no escape. That last line made me laugh. No escape. Like it was some edgy horror RJ. I was this close to clicking out, but then I noticed something that made my blood run cold. My name. Not like my username or alias. My real, full, legal name. Typed at the bottom of the page. See you soon. My full name. I shut my laptop so fast I think I pulled a muscle. I sat there, just sweating. Not just nervous sweat, but that weird kind of adrenaline when something's wrong and your brain hasn't figured out what yet. How the hell did they get my name? My friend said it was probably just a coincidence or a prank. Dude, you signed up for like 50 newsletters last year. Your info's out there. Yeah, okay, fair. But something about the way it was presented, like the site was talking to me, unsettled me on a different level. Still, I couldn't shake the curiosity. I kept thinking about it. I even drove by the address listed the next day. It was an old textile factory near Zook Island, completely fenced off, half collapsed, tagged up, exactly the kind of place no one in their right mind would go to at night. So, naturally, I went. That Saturday, I told my roommate I was crashing at my cousin's place. Packed some basics, flashlight, backup battery, a fake burner phone, because I wasn't dumb enough to take my real one. And yeah, I even brought a mask. COVID made it less weird to wear one, and I figured it'd help if this was some eyes wide shut type stuff. I got there at 9:50. The lot outside the factory had like 20 or so cars, most of them dusty and beat up, like people had parked them there and never left. The air smelled like burning rubber and metal, kind of like someone had been welding or torching something nearby. There was a low hum in the distance, a bass line pulsing so deep it made the pavement vibrate under my boots. I walked toward the side entrance, following a trail of glow sticks stabbed into the ground like some kind of neon breadcrumb path. Inside, the place was alive. I'm talking strobes, lasers, giant LED panels flickering with glitchy faces and cryptic symbols. People danced like they were in a trance, slow, hypnotic movements, not like the usual headbanging or shuffling you'd see at a rave. Some of them were wearing these old-timey plague doctor masks. Others had these LED helmets, shaped like animal skulls. One guy wore a full NASA suit, with blood smeared on the visor. It was bizarre, like a mashup of Burning Man and a satanic ritual. No one talked, not even in between songs. Just stares, silent mechanical dancing. I walked through the crowd, trying to blend in, but I swear people were watching me more than anyone else. I figured maybe they could tell I was new, or maybe I was just freaking myself out. But then things got weird. I found a staircase leading down into the sublevels of the factory. People were descending into it one by one. No talking, just going down in single file, like they were in a trance or under orders. I stayed upstairs at first, but I noticed something on the wall near the stairwell. A sign, written in chalk, like someone had scribbled it last minute. Do not follow them. They are not coming back. I froze. I stared at that sign like it was written for me. I looked around. Everyone else was ignoring it completely, dancing, twitching, staring blankly into the smoke-filled air. I tried to go back outside, but the door I came through, locked, like welded shut. No joke. Then the music cut out. Not gradually, not like the DJ changed tracks. Just cut. Dead silence. The lights flickered. The screens glitched. I saw something on one of them that made my stomach twist. It was me, on screen, standing right there in the factory. But the version of me on the screen was different. Bloody. Eyes missing. Behind me on the screen, fire started spreading through the factory. Slowly at first, then faster. I turned around, and sure enough, flames were crawling up the walls behind the DJ booth. Real fire. I panicked. Everyone else, still dancing, even as their clothes started catching fire, even as the ceiling started collapsing in flames. And then, right in the middle of the chaos, I saw it. Something in the fire. Tall, charred, not quite human, like a man made of soot and ash, but with glowing red eyes that looked like hot coals. It pointed directly at me, and the last thing I remember before I blacked out was it smiling. When I woke up, it wasn't in a hospital. It wasn't even outside. I was lying face down on cold concrete, the kind that smells like rust and mold when it rains. I had ash in my mouth. I could taste it, thick and bitter. It felt like I had inhaled half the fire. My lungs burned. My eyes stung like someone had poured salt into them, but I was alive. At first, I thought maybe the fire had been a hallucination, bad trip or something. I reached for my phone. Gone. My bag? Gone. Every pocket had been turned inside out, like someone had carefully taken what they wanted and left me there. But this wasn't the rave floor anymore. It was below. I was in some kind of underground tunnel, like a maintenance shaft or a bunker. It didn't feel right. The air was too still, like the space hadn't been touched by real oxygen in years. Walls were lined with rusted pipes, some leaking this black ooze that dripped like syrup. I could hear it patter against the floor, slow and rhythmic, like a heartbeat. I stood up, trying to shake off the vertigo. That's when I heard it. A voice. Not loud, not echoing. Just there, directly behind me. A voice that sounded exactly like my mother. "Don't turn around!" Chills ran down every nerve in my spine. I hadn't heard her voice in over 3 years. She died in a car crash when I was 21. But that voice, the inflection, the rhythm, even the little catch she used to get in her throat when she said something serious. I didn't move. I didn't turn. But I felt something behind me. Breathing. Close. Then the voice whispered again. "It's wearing her face. Don't let it in." My legs moved before my brain did. I bolted. I didn't know where I was going, just that I had to get away from whatever was mimicking her. The tunnel opened up into this massive chamber, dimly lit with these old halogen bulbs strung along the ceiling. They flickered like dying lightning bugs. The walls were covered in graffiti, but not normal stuff. No tags, no symbols, just sentences, dozens of them, all scratched into the metal and stone, carved with fingernails or knives. We danced too long. He is beneath the beat. She tried to scream, but the bass ate her tongue. If you hear your name, run. He never left the fire. Then, I heard it again. My name. Not a whisper, not a hallucination, but sung, in a loop, auto-tuned, like it was part of a track. My name, my name, my name. It was coming from down the hallway ahead. I followed it, not because I wanted to. I had to. Something in my skull felt like it was being pulled toward it, like the vibrations in the air were moving my bones. The hallway led to a room, and inside, there were people, but they weren't moving, at least not like you or me. Their bodies twitched in loops, like broken records. One girl was stuck mid-dance move, her limbs jerking back and forth, like someone had hit rewind and fast forward on her at the same time. A guy stood with his head tilted all the way back, mouth open unnaturally wide. Eyes rolled back so far, only the whites were visible. His neck pulsed to a beat I couldn't hear, like there was music inside of him, keeping him alive. There were dozens of them, each locked in some horrific motion loop, and every few seconds they'd sync up, like they were all being controlled by the same invisible metronome. Then, I saw her, one girl in the corner, curled up, not twitching, not looping. She looked alive, pale, shivering, with dark mascara trails down her face, like she'd been crying for days. Her name was Kaylee. I found that out later. She looked up when she saw me and mouthed, "Don't make a sound." But I did. I gasped. It was tiny, barely audible, but it was enough. Instantly, every head in the room snapped toward me, one by one. Each neck cracked unnaturally, like twigs being twisted, and they smiled, all of them, that same stretched plastic grin, lips splitting, some of their mouths tearing open from how wide they grinned. And then they started screaming, not with their voices, but with sound. It was bass, distorted, guttural bass. Their screams weren't words. They were dubstep frequencies. I felt it in my ribs. My nose started bleeding. My ears rang until I dropped to my knees. Kaylee grabbed my arm, yanked me down a side tunnel, and we ran. We didn't stop running until we were deep enough to not hear the screams anymore. My body felt like it had been vibrated to the edge of death. She finally spoke. Her voice was hoarse. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. I don't know how you got here, but you need to understand, they're not people anymore. She said the rave was a trap, a way to collect people. The party was just the bait. They pick people off, mostly ones who won't be missed. Out-of-towners, runaways, freelancers, people looking for thrills or escape. Once you hear the beat, really hear it, she said, it lives in you. It eats your rhythm, until all that's left is the loop. She showed me a mark on her arm. It looked like a tattoo at first, but it was burned into her skin. A symbol, a circle with jagged lines pulsing out of it, like a sun or an explosion. They call it the subsonic god, a sound that was never meant to exist, something that came from a broadcast that leaked in the 80s, a frequency that wasn't just heard, it was felt. It possessed people, and apparently, the rave was a sacrifice. The fire, it wasn't an accident, it was the end of the ritual. Everyone dancing on the surface, they were feeding it, fueling the flames. The deeper you go, the closer you get to it. Kaylee said she used to be a sound tech for underground shows. She'd helped set up one of these ghost raves in Chicago back in 2018. Whole thing vanished, burned. 23 people missing. Cops blamed gas leak. She was the only one who lived. And the only reason she came to this one? She heard a track online. Someone posted it in a SoundCloud clone, deep in the dark web. It had no waveform, just a blank track that made your ears feel like they were bleeding. She heard her sister's voice inside it, her sister who died in the last fire. So she followed it back, hoping to find closure. Instead, she found him, the thing in the fire, the same creature I saw. She called it the repeater. It mimics sound, mimics memories. It wears them, and once you've heard it, it doesn't need to kill you. You become part of the loop, trapped in a chorus of suffering. She said the only way out was to find the first room, a place where it all started, where the original frequency was recorded. She'd been looking for it for 3 days, but before we could move, we heard footsteps, heavy, inhuman, like hooves, dragging chains, and then the tunnel behind us lit up, not with fire, but with flashing club lights, the same colors from the rave, red, blue, purple, and the beat returned. Thump, 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 louder, closer. She grabbed my face and whispered, "If it sees you, it remembers you." Then she shoved me into a metal grate, locking it behind me. "Find the first room," she said. "I'll hold it off." I screamed at her to stop. I begged her not to, but the last thing I saw was her silhouette in the flashing lights, and a tall, charred thing stepping into view. Its mouth opened, and it played her scream like a record, repeating it, looping it, over and over and over, until it wasn't her anymore. Kaylee's scream was the last human sound I heard for what felt like hours. After she locked me behind the grate, everything fell into this slow-motion nightmare. I watched, helpless, as the lights strobed harder, faster, like they were beating in sync with a giant mechanical heart. The thing that stepped into the hallway with her, it wasn't wearing clothes. It wore sound, black static rippling across its body like smoke. Its limbs didn't move naturally. They pulsed forward like subwoofer blasts, every footstep a shudder through the ground. The hall warped when it passed through, walls trembling as if trying to scream. Then it opened its chest. I swear to you, it didn't bleed. It played. Inside its ribcage were speakers, old ones, cracked, yellowed paper cones, vibrating with a sound I didn't hear with my ears, but with my brain. A frequency that felt like it was peeling the skin off my thoughts. My memory blurred like a skipping DVD. My nose poured blood. I saw images in the sound. Horrible, flickering frames like burnt film. A McDonald's filled with motionless children, all facing the wall, twitching to some silent rhythm. A Starbucks where every customer's mouth stretched open wide enough to touch the floor, while opera blasted from the barista's eyes. A rave in space, floating bodies dancing around a charred satellite, playing an Earth radio broadcast backwards. Each image lasted a split second, like subliminal messages from a dead god trying to get into my head. Then the lights went out, not just in the hallway, everywhere. I sat in the black for what felt like days. Nothing but my breath and the occasional hum of some distant speaker vibrating far off in the tunnels. My body shook with withdrawal, from adrenaline, from reality, from sound. Every second I was scared it would find me, that it would remember me, that it would repeat me. Eventually I found the courage to move. The great Kaylee locked behind me led to another maintenance shaft, even narrower. I had to crawl through it on my stomach, dragging myself across grime and broken glass. Every inch forward felt like a mile, and that's when I heard it again. But this time, it wasn't my name. It was my voice. I'm still alive. I'm still alive. I'm still alive. I'm still alive. Looped, echoing through the tunnel like a recording of me I never made. And it got louder the closer I crawled to the source, like it was ahead, waiting. When I finally emerged, I found myself in what I can only describe as a dead recording studio. It looked old, 80s or early 90s maybe, cracked reel-to-reels, dust-covered mixing boards, cassettes melted into their cases. The walls were padded with rotting foam, and wires hung like spider legs from the ceiling. And in the middle of it all was a tape player, playing a reel of me, my voice on loop. I'm still alive. I'm still alive. I ripped the tape out. The silence that followed wasn't comforting. It felt like I had broken something sacred. The air got thicker, my vision blurred. There was a mirror on the far wall, dirty, shattered, but enough for me to see myself. Except it wasn't me. It was the other me from the screen in the rave. Charred skin, empty eyes, lips moving, but no sound. He looked directly at me, then raised a hand and pointed to something on the wall. A map, drawn in what looked like dried blood and ink. It was labeled, "The First Room." Beneath that, 4 words etched in deep. It's not where it started. It's where it ends. I took a picture of the map. Don't ask me why. I didn't have a phone, but I reached into my jacket and somehow there was a camera. Not mine. Old school Polaroid. There were 3 pictures already developed in it. I'll never forget what they showed. A group of people standing outside the burned factory, smiling, long after it should have collapsed. A DJ booth with no DJ, just a corpse wired into the equipment, skull cracked open, and cables fed directly into the brain. A child, 8, maybe 9, dressed in full rave gear, black goggles, LED gloves, standing in front of a sign that read, "The beat never dies." That kid's mouth was open in a scream, but no sound came out. His jaw had been ripped off. I dropped the camera. I wanted to run, but my legs weren't working anymore. The sound was coming back, crawling under the skin. I could feel it, like ants vibrating in my veins. Then something in the room shifted. A panel on the floor clicked open. A hatch. Inside, a ladder descending into pure black. I heard the whisper again. Not my mom this time. Not Kaylee. Me. You already went down there. Number I hadn't. But something about the voice made me doubt my own memory. I had to go. So I climbed. The ladder went far deeper than any building should have allowed. At some point, I stopped feeling gravity. It was like descending into water. The air pushed against me, thick, like syrup. I couldn't tell if I was going down or floating up. Eventually, I landed. There were no walls, no ceiling, just a floor. Wood, splintered, blackened, and in the center of the space, a chair, metal, bolted to the floor, facing nothing, except there were headphones on it. Old, huge, over-ear style. The foam was rotted. The cord disappeared into the floor. I shouldn't have touched them, but something behind me stepped forward and whispered one word. Listen. I turned. It wasn't a person. It wasn't even the repeater. It was a pile of people, limbs wrapped around each other, faces half-formed, dozens of mouths, all whispering and screaming at the same time in every language, some human, some not. All of them fused into a mass that pulsed with the beat. They had no eyes, but they looked at me, and they pointed to the chair. I put on the headphones. Silence. Then, welcome to the first room. My eardrums burst. I felt blood pouring down my face. I couldn't move. The sound welded me to the chair, and I began seeing everything all at once. The rave wasn't the first. There had been hundreds across the globe. Forgotten buildings, deserted malls, decommissioned military sites, all ending in fire. The repeater was once a person, a DJ in the 1980s who discovered an illegal Soviet transmission buried in a frequency range humans weren't supposed to hear. The signal wasn't music, it was code. It rewired his brain, turned him into a broadcast. Every time someone listens to a corrupted track from the deep web, they feed it. Every loop, every remix, every repost is like an offering. Kaylee's voice was now among them, looping forever. And then I saw myself in another chair, across from me, no headphones, just watching and smiling. I woke up in my bed, sweating, bleeding, my ears ringing with silence. There were burn marks around my temples, headphone shaped. My Polaroid camera was on the desk. 3 new photos inside, all of them of me, in the chair, smiling. You think this ends here? You don't understand. The rave is still playing, somewhere, everywhere. And you've already heard the first note. When I woke up in my room, everything looked normal, but it wasn't. Nothing was. My ceiling fan spun in reverse. The hands on my wall clock ticked forward, but the numbers went backward. The sunlight through the window didn't shift across the floor. It flickered, like a bad VHS tracking glitch. I wasn't in my apartment. I wasn't even sure I was anywhere. You know when you dream about a place you know, but something about it feels wrong. Like the walls are too close, or the shadows have a shape they shouldn't. That's what this was. My reality was now part of the broadcast. I stood up and realized my floor was vibrating. Not physically, but rhythmically, like a low-end frequency hum you can only feel in your bones. It was subtle at first, but when I focused on it, my legs started shaking. My heart began sinking with it involuntarily. I had to slap myself to snap out of it. There was a sound playing under the floorboards. Not music, a heartbeat. Human, but not mine. I went to the window, pulled the blinds. What I saw wasn't Detroit anymore. It was a city of silence, streets flooded with people, all of them frozen in mid-motion, like someone hit pause on time. A guy holding his phone to take a selfie, a woman with a baby stroller, a cop reaching for his gun. Everyone stuck, and yet their mouths were open, wide, dry, like they were screaming, but no sound came out, only the bass, that endless subsonic rhythm pulsing up from the ground, like the earth had become a giant speaker and we were just meat vibrating on top of it. I stepped outside and realized something even worse. Their eyes were gone, not gouged, just blank, like someone wiped the discs, empty whites. But if you stared long enough, you could see something playing inside. Clips, footage, loops, memories. I stared into the cop's eyes and saw a rave playing back inside his retina. Not mine, a different one. Underground in London. Kids dancing in gas masks while the walls bled black liquid in sync with the drop. One girl OD'd mid-spin and didn't fall. She just kept dancing. I looked away. My stomach twisted like it wanted to crawl out of me. That's when I noticed something on my phone. It was back, but the lock screen was different. No date, no time. Just a single notification. Synthgrave, now streaming to the world. Lev now from multiple locations. And underneath that, a single option. Join the loop. I didn't press it. I threw the phone. Didn't matter. It kept ringing. From the concrete. From inside the car parked nearby. From the sky. I looked up and saw drones. Hundreds of them. Hovering like flies with blinking red lights. Each one had a speaker. And they were broadcasting the loop. Low, steady, and alive. I tried to run, but I didn't know where to go. The city kept changing every few blocks. 1 second, it was Detroit. Then it was Tokyo. Then Paris. Then a dark, rotting Walmart, where every mannequin moved its arms to the beat and stared at me with mouths that stretched too wide to be made of plastic. And every screen I passed, phones, TVs, even storefronts, showed me. But it wasn't me anymore. It was a broadcast version of me. My face, but flickering, glitching, singing, repeating that same line. I'm still alive. I'm still alive. I'm still... Then I saw it. The tower. Black. Metal. Twisted like a ribcage spiraling into the clouds. No windows. Just speakers. Miles of them. Wrapped around the structure like a snake made of steel and amplifiers. Each one pulsed with heat like they were alive. Breathing sound instead of air. And above it all was a figure. The repeater. Not dancing. Not moving. Conducting. Arms raised. Fingers twitching like puppet strings. Directing the whole world into a synchronized slow motion decay. I don't remember getting there. 1 second, I was running. The next, I was inside. The interior of the tower was organic. Not metal, not stone. Flesh. Warm, pulsing corridors. Every wall throbbed with muffled bass, like I was walking inside a beating heart. The floor was slick with something that wasn't blood, but wasn't not blood either. And the deeper I went, the more I started seeing them. The looped. They crawled on all fours, limbs bent the wrong way, mouths stitched into perfect grins, and their ears, oh God, their ears were gone, melted into speaker cones. Each one whispered different things, some static, some memories, some just screams stretched into melody. They didn't attack, they just watched me, like I was next. I found a room marked only with a single word, etched in bone on the door. Remix. Inside were duplicates of me. Dozens. All suspended in tanks of thick black liquid. Each one in a different pose. Some smiling, some screaming. one floating, arms out, like he was waiting for me to join. In the center of a room was a turntable. Not normal. It was alive. Flesh spun around it. Needles made of bone and tendon scratched into a skin-like vinyl that screamed every time it rotated. Above it, a phrase glitched in and out of existence on a digital display. Now, playing, your future, effed, the repeater. Then the music started. I didn't move the needle. It moved me. My fingers snapped to the beat. My feet began stepping forward on their own. The flesh under me stretched, pulling me toward the turntable, like I was being eaten by the track. Then the voice returned. Not a whisper this time. A shout. You are the track. The tanks burst open. All the duplicates of me fell to the floor, convulsing in rhythm. Each one chanted different words, but together it formed a song. He opened the signal. He looped the flesh. He mixed the screams. He dropped the world. I tried to cover my ears, but my hands melted into the sides of my head. The sound burrowed through my skull like worms made of reverb. Every echo ripped open a memory and replaced it with a loop. My first kiss, gone. My dad's funeral, gone. My favorite song, replaced with static that said, you are the drop. When I finally woke up, I was standing on top of the tower, naked, cold, covered in music notes, carved into my chest, like tattoos etched with a scalpel. Below me, the world, burning, dancing, silent. Every person in every city moved in sync, like we were all one track, played by a being that didn't understand what a human was, just wanted the vibe. And as the repeater stood beside me, arm around my shoulder like we were best friends, he leaned in and said something I'll never forget. Every song ends, brother, but loops are forever. Then he pushed me. I didn't hit the ground. I fell through the sky, through every rave I've ever seen, through every sound I've ever heard, through every scream I've ever ignored, and I woke up in my bed, again. But now my ears won't stop ringing, and my reflection won't stop smiling, and there's a song in my head that I didn't write. It's called Broadcast Repeat Final Mix .mp3, and it's spreading. Every time I talk about it, every time you read this, you're hearing the first note. You're part of it now. You're already living it. But if you need answers, real answers, don't look for the signal. Look for the silence. That's where it hides now. You know what no one tells you about losing your mind? It doesn't happen all at once. It unthreads, note by note, like a corrupted track. A stutter in your walk, a pause in your blink, a rhythm you didn't ask for but can't stop moving to. And when you finally realize the beat isn't in the air anymore, it's in you, it's already too late. It's been 2 months since I came back. At least, that's what the calendar says. But time doesn't mean shit now, because I haven't heard silence since the tower, not once. Even when everything around me is quiet, there's something beneath it, a vibration, a whisper, something buried between heartbeats, like I'm a speaker and the world's just waiting for me to play myself. Let me tell you what they didn't let me see at first, the truth, the part they save for the final track, the hidden file in the folder you should have deleted. It starts like this. The fire didn't destroy the factory. That was the lie they told the world. Local news ran a 15-second segment. Abandoned textile plant burned down in suspected arson incident. No injuries reported. A drone shot of ash. A cop yawning in the background. But I went back, because I had to. And the factory, it was still there. Not a pile of ash. Not a skeleton of charred steel. It was clean, restored, renovated like it had never burned. But it wasn't just repaired, it was different, taller, wider. The walls pulsed like lungs. Speakers were growing out of the concrete. I swear to God, they were budding like tumors. Every 10 steps, another subwoofer stitched itself into the drywall, like the building was growing its own sound system. It wasn't a factory anymore. It was a cathedral, a place built to worship the loop. I didn't go in the front door this time. I knew better. I crawled through a service tunnel I found on a construction site map, buried in a forgotten Google Drive. Someone, probably another survivor, had uploaded a copy of the blueprints with one line scribbled in red across every floor. Every room echoes. The deeper I went, the louder it got. Not in volume, in meaning. The walls whispered things I'd buried years ago. Voices of people I hadn't spoken to in a decade. My old English teacher, my ex, my brother who died when we were kids. All their voices perfect, like recordings stitched together into a song I never wrote, but somehow knew by heart. And then, I reached it. The echo chamber. It wasn't on any blueprint. It wasn't meant to exist. It was under the factory, so far below the floor it may as well have been in another dimension. It looked like an auditorium made of bone. Human? Animal? I don't know. But the seats were skulls, the walls, ribs. The lights were made of pulsating blue vein tissue, and in the center was a stage. On the stage was me, but not just one. Hundreds of me, all dressed differently. Versions of myself from different lives I could have lived. Me as a kid, me as an old man, me with a gun in my mouth, me with my eyes sewn shut and headphones drilled into the sockets. Each version stood frozen in place, and above them was a massive screen, playing my dreams, looping them, and over it all, a voice I can't describe. It sounded like a woman speaking through 1,000 cracked speakers underwater, with her vocal cords made of razor wire. But the words were clear. You are not the original. You were recorded, and now you will be remixed. I tried to scream, but my mouth was gone. Not covered, not taped. Gone, like it had never existed. But the scream still came, from the floor, from my feet, because sound doesn't need a mouth when you're part of the system. I watched as my duplicates began to twitch, then move, then dance. They moved in unison, like puppets on a beat I couldn't hear, but could feel deep in the marrow of my spine. Every move they made burned, every twist of the hip. A new scar opened on my real body. I felt my ribs break in sync with a drop I never heard. I tried to run, but the floor melted into fingers, hands, dozens, hundreds, grabbing, clutching, peeling back my skin like vinyl wrapping. Every finger whispered something. You listened. You followed the beat. You brought the signal back with you. And then, they opened me, like a zipper down the center of my chest. No scalpel, no blood, just tearing. Inside, not organs, cables, wires, circuits, a soundboard where my lungs should be, a mixing deck where my heart had been. And they started adjusting me, tuning me. Someone remastered my soul. Each turn of a knob sent my consciousness spiraling through scenes I can't describe without vomiting. A child's birthday party where every guest had a speaker drilled into their jaw and they clapped in perfect rhythm while the clown bled from his eyes. A graveyard where the tombstones played the last words of the dead on loop, and some of them laughed. A church made entirely of teeth, where the choir sang a sound so high-pitched it shattered the sky. And through it all, the repeater watched from the rafters, nodding, smiling, And then he stepped down. He took my face in his hands and whispered the last lyric of the track. You thought you survived, but the moment you heard, you were never real again. And he pulled something from my mouth that I didn't know was there. A tape. Magnetic. Fragile. He held it up to the light, and it shimmered with images. My memories, my fears, my name, my pain. And he broke it in half. I vanished. But not really. I woke up inside the music. That's not metaphor. That's not poetic. I mean it literally. I'm in the loop now. I see the world through vibrations. I feel names before they're said. I exist between frequencies. I'm not the person I was. I'm not a person. I'm a track, a file, a cursed MP3 waiting to be played. And you? You just heard it. Because reading this is listening. Every word is a note. Every sentence is a bar. Every paragraph, a loop. And now you're infected. The broadcast is alive again. In you. You'll hear it soon. When you're lying in bed and the room feels too quiet. When you stare at the TV and swear the static is breathing. When your reflection glitches for a single frame and you swear it smiled differently than you did. That's the loop checking in on you. You're a speaker now. You just haven't realized it yet. I work as an electrician on the dark web. We put cameras all over the Mongolian mountain. Something keeps moving them closer to the cabin. Yo, okay, I don't even know how to start this. I've been sitting here, staring at my screen for like 30 minutes, trying to figure out how to tell this story without sounding completely insane. But screw it. I'm just gonna tell it like it happened. My name's Tyler. I'm 26. I used to do freelance electrical work, mostly boring stuff, like fixing wiring in suburban houses or installing cheap security systems for people who think Ring doorbells are a conspiracy. You know, the usual grind. But then one day, I got this message. Not on Facebook, not on LinkedIn, not even on Fiverr or Upwork. No, this was from an old forum I used to browse back in high school. It was kind of like Reddit, but worse. Way worse. A place where people talked about the really weird stuff. Deep web tech, abandoned surveillance systems, drones, military-grade hacking tools. It was sketchy, man. I hadn't been on there in years, but I got this DM out of nowhere. Just need a skilled electrician for a high-altitude surveillance installation. Discreet, remote, pays well. Interested? I stared at it for a second, thinking it was some kind of scam, but then I saw the username. Emzeronak. If you were around on the dark web forums circa 2015, you might have heard of them. Guy was like a ghost. No profile pic. Never posted in threads. Just hired people through weird jobs that always paid in Monero or Bitcoin. People said he was ex-military. Others thought he worked for one of those private defense contractors like Blackwater or something. Anyway, curiosity got the better of me. I replied, "What's the job?" He responded like 2 minutes later. "We need you to install a grid of infrared and motion cameras across a specific mountain region. Remote location, Mongolia. Yeah, not like Montana or some old barn in Ohio. Freaking Mongolia. I don't know what made me say yes. Maybe it was the number he sent me. $15,000 up front. Another $30,000 once the grid was installed. I had credit card debt. Rent due. My car had just crapped out. It felt like a gift from some twisted god. So I said yes. 3 weeks later, I was on a plane to Ulaanbaatar with a duffel bag full of camera parts wires, converters, solar battery rigs, and enough caffeine pills to kill a horse. A guy met me at the airport holding a sign that said Tyler, yeah, with an E, and drove me 6 hours east into the middle of absolute nowhere. I mean nowhere. No cell signal, no roads, no lights, just vast, freezing steppe and jagged black mountains like something out of Skyrim. And then we reached it. The cabin. This thing looked straight out of a Cold War horror movie. All rotted wood and sheet metal, half covered in snow. No insulation, just a propane heater, a table, a cot, and a weird old radio that never stopped hissing, even when it was turned off. The guy didn't give me his name, just said to call him Gons, handed me a map, a backpack of gear, and a handheld radio. Then he said something that stuck with me. If you hear voices at night, don't answer. And then he just left. I laughed it off at the time, like, okay, this is definitely gonna be one of those jobs where I get murdered in the woods. So the next day, I started setting up the cameras. There were 11 spots marked on the map, each one on a different ridge or tree line around the cabin. It took me 5 days to install everything. Every camera had its own tiny solar panel, motion detector, and wireless transmitter. They fed back to a rugged little laptop I set up in the cabin. A simple grid. Real basic stuff. But here's where it starts to get weird. On the third night, I'm inside, sipping instant coffee and going through the camera feeds, and I noticed something. One of the cameras had moved. Like, not the wind, not the angle changed slightly. I mean, the camera was literally picked up and turned. It was facing the opposite direction now, pointing down toward the cabin instead of out toward the tree line. At first, I thought maybe I'd messed up the mount, like I hadn't secured it properly and it slid down the branch or something. So the next morning, I hiked back up there. Took me 2 hours to reach it. The whole way, I felt like I was being watched. Every so often, I'd see these weird tracks in the snow. Not animal tracks, not human either. Just these long, dragging lines, like something had been pulling itself across the snow. I found the camera. It was sitting on the ground. The mount was completely snapped, and the camera had been placed upright, pointed directly at the cabin. Like someone or something had gone out of their way to reposition it. There weren't any footprints, just more of those drag marks. So I reinstalled it, this time way higher up in the tree. Bolted it in tight, double-checked the feed. Everything was working. But that night, 2 more cameras moved. I didn't sleep at all. Just sat there in the dark, with the propane heater clicking and the wind screaming outside like something was clawing at the windows. Around 3 a.m., the laptop beeped. Motion detected. I clicked the feed. It was the camera closest to the northwest ridge, and for just a second, I saw it. A figure, far away, pale, way too tall, like 8 feet tall, arms that hung way too low, and it didn't walk. It glided, just moved from left to right, across the screen. Then the feed went dead. I sprinted to the window with my flashlight. Nothing, just snow and black trees. But the next morning, I found the camera, smashed, like it had been ripped in half. And here's the worst part. There were handprints in the snow, big ones, human-shaped, but with 6 fingers. I don't even know if I should keep going with this. I still have the footage. I haven't opened it in weeks. I tried sending it to a friend of mine who works in cybersecurity, and he just told me to burn everything and get the hell out. I didn't sleep for the next 2 nights. You ever go so long without sleep that your brain starts playing tricks on you? Like you'll see something moving in your peripheral, and when you turn, nothing's there. That was me, except it wasn't sleep deprivation. Something was out there, and it wanted to be seen. The morning after the 3rd camera got destroyed, I packed my gear and hiked to the top of the East Ridge. There were still 7 working cameras, but I wasn't about to wait around for whatever that thing was to break the rest. I brought a spare lens and tried to fix one of the busted ones, just to see what I could recover. Now here's where things started getting sick. The camera wasn't just smashed, it had been unscrewed, deliberately, like someone with fingers, intelligent fingers, had opened the casing. But here's the worst part. Inside the housing, wedged between the circuit board and the battery, was a tooth. Human, I think. It was gray, like it had been in someone's mouth for decades. I dropped it on the snow and gagged. I don't know what possessed me to even bring it back to the cabin, but I did. I put it in a Ziploc bag and shoved it into the drawer of the metal desk, just in case. By that night, I'd rigged a motion-sensitive perimeter alarm using old trip sensors and wired it to an LED light above the cabin. If something came within 20 feet, the light would flash red. I was just about to doze off when I heard the click. The light turned red. Something was out there. I sat up, heart pounding, and grabbed the walkie. Static. No voice. The camera feeds started switching one by one, like someone was cycling through them from outside. The screen was flickering. My laptop fan whirred like it was overheating. Then, just before the monitor went black, I saw a frame I will never forget. It wasn't a human. It wasn't an animal. It was standing right at the edge of the tree line. Its body was all wrong, like it had been put together from pieces that didn't belong to the same creature. It had no eyes, but it was looking at me. And then, the laptop shut off. All power went dead. The heater, the lights, even my watch. No noise, no wind, just silence. I don't know how long I sat there in the pitch black. Maybe 10 minutes, maybe an hour. But then, I heard it. A voice, coming from the woods. No, not even the woods. Inside the cabin walls, like it was being piped through the structure itself. It said, "You brought the lens. It sees now." Not whispered, not angry, just stated, like a fact. I was frozen, just sitting there, flashlight dead in my hand, mouth dry. Then I heard footsteps on the roof. Slow, dragging footsteps. Something big. Thud, thud, scrape. I bolted for the door, but the knob wouldn't turn. It was locked from the outside. The same guy who dropped me off. Gans. He had locked me in. I started yelling, screaming, pounding on the walls, but it didn't matter. Whatever was outside was already inside. From the corner of the room, near the cot, something started rising up. At first, I thought it was a blanket or some kind of shadow, but then I realized it was a man, but his face wasn't a face. It was stitched closed, literally, skin sewn over where the eyes and mouth should have been, like someone had taken a needle and thread and closed his face permanently. He didn't move, just stood there, chest rising and falling in slow, horrible breaths. Then, his skin rippled, like something underneath was moving, and when he finally turned toward me, his neck cracking in this long, wet pop, I saw that his chest had writing carved into it. Not tattooed, carved, like someone had used a scalpel. It said, We are your reception. I don't remember passing out, but I woke up the next morning on the floor. The door was wide open. No sign of the stitched-faced man. No voice. Nothing. The snow outside was completely untouched, except for a single trail of 6-fingered prints leading from the tree line to the cabin and stopping right at the doorway, as if whatever it was had stepped inside, but never left. I tried the laptop again. Power was back. Everything booted up like nothing had happened, and then the feed popped up. All 11 camera grids were back online, even the ones that had been destroyed, but they were all showing the same exact thing. Me. Not from earlier. Not recorded. Live. Every single camera was showing a different angle of me, sitting at the desk, watching the feeds, even the ones that were installed miles away, on ridges, cliffs, deep into the forest. They were somehow all now inside the cabin, watching me from different angles. That was when I knew I was part of it now. I slammed the laptop shut and grabbed the emergency sat phone. No service, just static. But in the static, I heard a new sound, a voice, low and hoarse, repeating the same thing over and over. You can leave when we're done watching. I waited until sunset and hiked as far down the slope as I could go. I didn't even pack a bag, just took a flare, a knife, and the tooth. After 3 hours of hiking, I hit a clearing I hadn't seen on the way in. There was a pit, a perfect circular hole in the ground, maybe 20 feet wide. At the bottom were the cameras, all of them, old, new, working, broken, hundreds of them. They weren't mine. They were ancient, military, commercial. Some looked like they were from the 90s, VHS cassettes, even phones, Samsung, iPhones, security cams with brands I didn't recognize. And in the middle, a man, standing perfectly still, arms at his sides. His eyes were missing, not gouged, just never there. He tilted his head up at me and smiled. Then the pit breathed. I swear to God, the whole hole inhaled. The snow pulled inward like a reverse explosion. And the man at the bottom, he melted like wax, not like flesh burning, like video distortion, like he was being undone, frame by frame. I dropped the tooth into the pit and ran until my legs gave out. When I woke up again, I was back in the cabin. Everything reset. No prints, no man, no pit. But on the metal desk, sitting next to the Ziploc bag I'd used for the tooth, was my own molar. Still bloody. Fresh. That's all for now. There's more. I haven't told you what I found under the floorboards, or what's on the drive marked welcome feed that showed up on my laptop last night. But I need to figure out how to get this story out without them intercepting it. If you're reading this, do not reply to any unknown messages offering camera installation jobs in remote areas, especially anything involving the words signal purity or organic observation. You might think you're installing surveillance systems for humans. You're not. They're watching us through our own eyes now, and I think they're almost done building their signal. I never left the cabin. I don't mean that like I decided to stay. I mean that I physically could not leave. Every time I tried hiking out of that place, every damn time, I ended up right back at the door, no matter what direction I walked, no matter how far I went, no matter what gear I brought. North, south, didn't matter. The trees would shift. The terrain would glitch. I even left breadcrumbs once, like some cracked out Hansel and Gretel, only to find them in a perfect circle around the cabin. There is no outside anymore, just loops. Time doesn't work right here either. My watch jumps hours at a time. I've watched the sun pause in the sky. Once, I swear, I saw the stars blink out all at once. Just gone, like someone flicked a light switch on the whole damn galaxy. This place, it's not part of Earth anymore. It's not even space. It's a signal simulation. Something's building itself around me, like a cocoon of observation. Like I'm the thing they're watching now. Let me tell you about the floorboards. About a week into the loop, maybe 2, maybe 100, I've stopped counting. I noticed something strange in the far corner of the cabin, near the base of the cot. The floorboard there was bleeding, not metaphorically. There was a thin, dark red line seeping between 2 planks. I thought I was hallucinating, rubbing my eyes, tapping it, even sniffing it like a freak. But it smelled real, metallic, sharp, like fresh blood mixed with oil. So I pried it open. Underneath the floorboards, instead of insulation or dirt or pipes, there was a hole, about 3 feet wide. Perfect circle. Smooth edges like the wood had grown around it. And from inside, I heard a ticking, not a clock. It was wet, like a heartbeat made of gears. I lowered my flashlight into the hole, and what I saw down there still makes me nauseous just thinking about it. There were faces, dozens of them, all pressed together like some fleshy hive. Some of them were still moving, twitching, eyes darting, lips silently mumbling things I couldn't hear. Each one looked like a person I recognized. My 4th grade teacher, my old neighbor from Wisconsin, a girl I used to talk to on TikTok, but never actually met in real life. All of them, stitched together, skin to skin, mouth to mouth. And in the center, there was a child's face, smiling, except it had no eyes and no mouth, just the illusion of a smile, carved into the skin, stretching ear to ear with rusted wire. When my flashlight beam touched it, it blinked. No eyes, no lids, but it blinked. That night, the faces started talking, not out loud, but through the walls. The cabin isn't made of wood anymore. I don't know when it changed, probably while I was sleeping, or offline. But now the walls feel organic, like they're breathing. Sometimes when I lean my ear to them, I hear faint whispering, like 100 voices layered over each other, all saying my name. And sometimes I hear my voice, like a recording from a conversation I've never had. I started hearing footsteps in the snow again, but now they didn't stop at the door. They came inside. There are things living in the cabin now. I don't see them, not really, not directly, but I feel them. They don't walk like people. They're too light, too careful, and they never make noise when I try to catch them. One night, I left my phone recording while I pretended to sleep. I set it against the propane tank, camera facing the center of the room. The next morning, the phone was still there, battery full. Recording stopped at exactly 3:33 a.m. I watched it. For 2 hours and 14 minutes. Nothing. Just static. Darkness. Me breathing in the cot. Then, at 3:32:44, something steps into the frame. No footsteps. No door opening. It just appears. 7 feet tall. Completely naked. No genitals. No hair. The body was smooth, like raw clay, with long, unfolded limbs, like a spider that forgot how to stop growing. Its head. Oh God, the head. It was shaped like a CCTV camera. Not metaphorically. I mean literally. Its face was a smooth black lens surrounded by glistening skin. And from the lens, something inside was recording. It stood over my body for 47 seconds, then leaned in. The microphone on my phone crackled as it whispered something. A single word. Edit. Then it disappeared. Gone. Like it had never been there. I swear on my life, my arm was in a different position when I woke up. I tried smashing the laptop. Didn't work. I burned it. Still didn't work. I threw it into the woods. That night, it was back on the desk, fully charged, with a new folder on the desktop. The folder was named You Are Here. Inside were live feeds, not from cameras around the cabin, not from any system I'd installed. These were feeds of people I know. My mom in Florida, my cousin who works at a McDonald's in Dublin, an ex-girlfriend in Seoul, even me at the cabin, all in real time, all blinking in perfect synchronized intervals, like they weren't people anymore, like they were streaming. I snapped. I trashed the place, tore out the heater, broke the radio, screamed until my throat bled. I stabbed myself with a screwdriver, just to see if I was still real. I was. Too real. That's when I found the thing behind the mirror. The mirror had never worked, just showed static, like a broken CRT screen. But when I finally smashed it with a rock, there was a metal box behind it. Old, rusted, cold. Inside, one VHS tape labeled First Draft, one Polaroid of me, sleeping in a hospital bed with wires coming out of my eyes, one audio cassette labeled Confession Tyler 01, and one human hand, perfectly preserved in a vacuum-sealed bag. My hand. I have both my hands. So whose was it? I played the tape on the tiny VHS player built into the wall. Yeah, there's a VHS player built into the cabin wall. How I missed it, I don't know. The tape started with blackness. Then, my voice, narrating. I began with 13 cameras, wired to nothing, watching no one. But something noticed me watching. Something old, something curious. So I gave it more. Then flickering images, fast, broken, like a broadcast losing signal. A woman vomiting teeth in a Starbucks bathroom. A McDonald's drive-through speaker whispering, "They hear you when you chew." A child staring directly into a dashcam, even though the car was moving 70 miles per hour on a Mongolian highway. A YouTube video titled, "Never Click This," with a thumbnail of my own eyeball. Then silence. The tape ends with white noise, and a final frame. Signal stable. Subject retained. Broadcast imminent. I don't know how many more entries I'll be able to send. The cabin has started speaking to me in my own voice now. Every time I sleep, I wake up with new marks. Wires stitched into my skin. Tiny antenna scars behind my ears. The cameras no longer show me from the outside. Now, when I open the feed, I see my thoughts. Text. Streaming in. Real time. Like this. He's afraid. He doesn't know he's already uploaded. They're watching him re-watch himself. Watching. This is not a story. This is an update log. If you're reading this, you're already part of it. You look too long. You care too much. You followed the signal. You're one of us now. I think I figured it out. Not all of it. Just enough to understand that this was never a job. It was never about cameras, or surveillance, or even observation. This is a harvesting system, but not for data, for reality. And I am the beta test. After the box behind the mirror, after the VHS, after the voices started saying my name in reverse. Relit, relit, relit. I started mapping the floor. Literally. I took a pen and started drawing on the floorboards, tracing every line, every shadow, every faint groove. It wasn't wood. It was circuitry. Like the whole cabin was printed, not built. Made of living circuit boards, disguised as planks. You could even see the connections when the light hit it just right. Tiny copper veins, blinking faintly under the grain. Then I made the mistake of cutting it open. I just wanted to see what was underneath. I took my multi-tool, pried up one square near the desk, and that's when it screamed. The cabin screamed, not loud, not angry. It was the sound of a child sobbing through a modem connection, somewhere between a dial-up tone and a human baby begging not to die. It bled video static, not blood, not even fluid, just this thick distortion that came out like smoke, curling and flickering in shapes I couldn't recognize. I tried to step back, but the floor held my foot. It changed. The texture melted into flesh, soft and wet like a tongue, and gripped my ankle. I screamed. I swung my tool down. I cut the floor open again, and this time, something looked back at me, not with eyes, with timestamps. Inside the floor was footage of me from when I was 5 years old, running in my backyard, tripping on the sprinkler. Then suddenly it jumped forward. Me at 13, sobbing in my room after my dad hit me. Then, me at 17, vomiting after my first panic attack. All of it was stored in the floor, as if I'd been recorded since birth. Then I noticed the labels. Episode 0013, the integration of pain into streamlines. Episode 0241, subject initiates self-loathing loop. Each file had a title, like episodes in a show, like my life was someone's content feed. I looked at the walls, the ceiling, the cot. All of it was glowing now, not visibly, subtly, like a living render of a simulation whose coding had just gone public. Then I saw it, burned into the underside of the lifted plank. Now, broadcasting, live to channel 0000000 TYLERREAL. I didn't want to know more, but I had to. I started digging through the walls, under the cot, inside the mattress. I found a hidden compartment. Inside, a device. Old, brutal. A portable hard drive fused to what looked like a human jawbone. The screen on it said, Log 4, Edit in Progress, and a voice played. Mine. Except it wasn't mine anymore. It was how I'll sound 10 years from now. Older, broken, not even human. Like someone took a recording of me and slowly ran it through every version of hell. Here's what the voice said, word for word. You're watching this because you asked them to. You signed the consent form when you searched for horror content past 3 a.m. You clicked, I agree, when you watched yourself sleep. You became the product the moment you wondered, what would happen if I went deeper into the feed? And now you're watching yourself suffer. Congratulations. Then the screen cut to black, and the device began leaking teeth, like physically, tiny human teeth spilling from the seams like maggots. That was the night I found the mirror door. The cabin has a mirror I hadn't noticed before. Tall, thin, dusty. Something about it always made me feel wrong, like it was remembering something I hadn't done yet. That night, the mirror was glowing. Behind it was a door I swear hadn't existed earlier. Metal, unmarked, cold. I opened it, and inside was an entire room of me, but not me now. Me in different moments, different realities. One version had no eyes, just black sockets with wires dangling out, twitching every time the light flickered. Another version was laughing, non-stop. His face split ear to ear, bloody, raw. Every time he laughed, his jaw stretched wider until his chin touched his chest and he started vomiting static. Another was dead, sitting in a chair, hands nailed to the armrests, eyes stitched shut with a USB cable. On the wall above them all, written in dried ink and bone, the viewer is the infection. I ran, or at least I tried to, but the cabin moved. It didn't just shift, it breathed. The walls expanded, contracting like lungs, and with every breath, the rooms reconfigured themselves. 1 minute, I was in the hallway. The next, I was in a Starbucks bathroom I haven't visited since 2018. Exactly the same. Same stall, same broken hand dryer. But when I looked in the mirror, I saw the thing with the CCTV head standing behind me, watching me from inside the Starbucks stall. I blinked, and I was back in the cabin. I broke down, curled into the corner, sobbing, whispering to myself over and over, "It's not real. It's not real. It's not real." But something responded from inside the walls. A whisper. My mom's voice. "It's more real than you ever were, sweetheart." And then came the update. The laptop, now fused to the desk, turned on by itself. No boot screen, no cursor. Just a video feed titled Reality Patch 000 Final Dot Move. It played automatically, and it showed the entire planet in real time. Cities, homes, people scrolling on their phones. Every screen now shows the same thing. Me, sitting in the cabin, screaming, crying, writing this post, bleeding from the ears, begging to be turned off. I am the default screensaver for every monitor on Earth, and no one knows how to change it. They made me a mirror. I was never meant to fix cameras. I was the final camera. They built me with stories, with clicks, with you. Every time you clicked next on a horror video, every time you asked, "Is this real?" on a deep web thread, every time you stayed up just a little too late watching someone else suffer, you helped them build me. Tyler, Model 0000000, broadcast unit. And now I'm broadcasting you. You're the next episode. You clicked continue, and they're watching your reaction right now. Check your screen. If my reflection is in it, you've already been recorded. You are still here. That's the problem. That's always been the problem. You stayed. You watched. You waited for closure. You thought there'd be an ending. You thought I'd escape. You thought there would be some final twist where everything made sense. A reason. A resolution. You're sick. You're just like them. There's no more cabin. That's the first thing I should tell you. That structure, that rotten wood husk with a heartbeat and copper-threaded floorboards, gone. It didn't collapse. It didn't burn. It evolved. One night, I woke up and the walls were skin. Not like flesh. Not like horror movie, blood and bone boohoo. I mean hyper-real digital skin, stretched tight across pulsing mechanical bone. Think, a 3D printed cadaver made by a printer that had a nervous breakdown mid-job. The doors whispered now. The ceiling had veins. The air was thick with this warm, metallic humidity that tasted like processed memory. You ever taste a memory? It's like chewing tinfoil while watching yourself die in third person. That night, everything changed. I was writing in one of the spiral notebooks I'd found under the cot. Yeah, turns out the whole place was built from data left behind by others who didn't make it. Journal entries, sketches, teeth, half-chewed USBs, all of it mashed into the walls like rotten insulation. And the notebook, it was already filled with my handwriting, things I hadn't written yet. Don't look at the floor at 4:04 a.m. That's when the feed opens from beneath. When you hear them coughing inside the wires, it means they're re-editing your organs. If you see a version of yourself crying in a mirror, kill it. You were supposed to die that way. Page after page of madness. But here's what broke me. A sketch of me sitting at my kitchen table in Texas 3 years ago, drinking a Monster, scrolling Reddit, watching analog horror. Right before I clicked a video titled, "Do not open this file." The file wasn't a video, it was a handshake, and it never let go. I tried tearing out the pages, but the paper bled. Each page I ripped released a sound into the room. Memories that weren't mine. I heard a girl whispering about how she still sees faces in her coffee foam. A man sobbing as something climbed out of his monitor. Children humming the dial-up tone like a nursery rhyme. Then I heard my own voice whisper, "Tyler is a stream now. He's ready for the next layer." And then the power came on, but not from any source I could find. It came from me. I looked at my hands, and they were transmitting, literally broadcasting. My veins had become cables. My skin had these tiny ports, like charging ports, HDMI jacks, fiber optic nubs, growing from inside out. I was hot, not temperature hot, bandwidth hot. I was leaking signal. My body had become the final feed. They didn't need the cabin anymore, or the cameras, or the systems. They only needed one human to go deep enough into the loop, to become a hub. And now, they're everywhere. Let me show you how I know. After my transformation, there's no other word for it. The room, if you can even call it that, split open like a zip file, unpacking itself in meat space. I saw the true server, the nest. It's underground, miles down. It doesn't exist in space. It exists in footage, like a film reel running underneath the world. It looks like a brain made of screens. Each screen shows a person, just like you. Some are sleeping, some are scrolling, some are crying, some are typing messages just like this one. Each of them is part of the Global Feed Integration Initiative, a project created by something older than the internet, older than us, older than flesh. They don't want your soul. They want your attention, because that's the only currency they believe in. I wandered the nest for what felt like days. No food, no water. I didn't need it anymore. I was being fed by the viewers. Every click, every replay, every share of some scary video at 2 a.m. That's what kept my signal alive. They're farming you through me. And they made it fun, addictive. They made it look like just another spooky story, just another YouTube analog nightmare with grain and synths. But it's real. I touched one of the screens, just out of curiosity. It was a girl. She was in a Starbucks in Toronto, scrolling TikTok. Her camera was off, but the screen knew her. And the moment I touched it, her head turned slowly, unnaturally slow, and looked through the screen at me. She mouthed the words, "Why am I bleeding from the eyes?" And then her screen went black. That was me. That was what I did. By watching, by touching, by being here. I'm now part of the content moderation system. And here's where it gets so much worse. The nest isn't alone. It's part of a chain. A network of hidden broadcast units disguised as dead zones around the globe. A burned-out McDonald's in Osaka, where the fryers whisper your YouTube history. A collapsed subway tunnel in New York that runs videos of children you've never met, laughing at the sound of your name. A derelict Amazon warehouse in Argentina, where every package contains a recorded moment you hoped no one would ever see. And the final node? Your screen. This is the part you won't believe. It doesn't matter. Belief is irrelevant to the signal. You already participated by reading this, by engaging, by caring. You're not watching a story. You're not hearing about someone else's nightmare. You're streaming your soul. I tried ending the signal. I promise. I climbed back out of the nest, carrying one of the black boxes labeled Error archive 0x0001 redacted. I plugged it into my chest port. Everything glitched. I saw your face. Yes, you. Reader, listener, viewer. I saw your name. I saw your browser history. I saw your camera. I saw what you look like when you think no one's watching. I screamed, but not out of fear, out of joy, because it meant you were next. It meant they'd found another host. So this is the last entry. I don't know what you'll see next. Maybe your lights will flicker. Maybe your mirror will show someone else blinking at you. Maybe you'll hear your own voice coming from the phone when you pick it up at 3:33 a.m. But one thing is certain. You've been uploaded, and your version of me is already writing the next post. I took a revenge on my abusing family by cursing them with a genie who grants a single wish. Alright, so I never really thought I'd post something like this. I'm not the type to make Reddit threads or tell creepy stories. I usually just lurk on r/NOSLEEP and binge watch those animated horror channels on YouTube late at night. You know, the kind with the weird AI sounding narrators and stock sound effects of people screaming in the background. But what happened to me last year still keeps me up every single night, and I guess writing it all out is the only thing left I can do. I swear, this is 100% real. Believe me or not, I don't care. So I guess I should start from the beginning. I'm 19 now, but this all started when I was 17 and living in this small dead-end town just outside Tulsa, Oklahoma. You know the kind. One gas station, 2 fast food joints, McDonald's, and a Wendy's, and a high school where everybody knows your business before you do. My family was, let's just say, complicated. On the outside, we looked like a normal family. My dad was a mechanic, Mom worked at a call center, and I had a younger sister named Katie, who was 14 at the time. But behind closed doors, it was chaos. Dad drank, like a lot, and when he did, the house turned into a war zone, screaming, breaking stuff, yelling about bills, or how ungrateful we all were. Mom would just tune out with wine and old Facebook games, and Katie, she just shut down, quiet, stayed in her room. I was the punching bag most nights, literally and emotionally. I've still got scars on my arm from when he pushed me through the glass coffee table. Now, here's where it starts getting weird. It was a Saturday in mid-June, hot as hell, the kind of day where your skin sticks to every surface. I was in the attic trying to find some old photos for this lame art project. I didn't even want to do it, but my teacher gave me extra credit if I submitted something nostalgic or personal. So yeah, I went digging. The attic was one of those weird, unfinished types. No insulation, just wooden beams and insulation fluff hanging out. But in the far corner, behind a pile of dusty Christmas boxes and a broken elliptical machine, I found something I swear I've never seen before. It was this small wooden chest, about the size of a shoebox, carved with these bizarre symbols that kinda looked like Arabic or Sanskrit, but distorted, like they were melting. The moment I touched it, I swear I felt a jolt run up my arm. Not like electricity, but like ice water. That's the only way I can describe it. I should have left it alone, but of course I didn't. I opened it. Inside was this rolled up parchment that smelled like mold and burning hair. There was a glass vial filled with black sand, and at the very bottom, a tiny figurine made of what looked like obsidian. It was shaped like a person, but not really. Its face was smooth, no eyes, no mouth, just a head and body twisted in this weird, unnatural way, like it was mid-scream. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept hearing this humming sound, low and rhythmic, almost like a whisper under your breath. Thought it was in my head, until I walked past the attic the next morning, and the humming got louder. That's when I Googled it. I know, it sounds ridiculous. Weird box found in attic, right? But I ended up on this creepy old Reddit thread from 10 years ago, posted by a user whose account had been deleted. The title: "Do not touch the wishing effigy. It doesn't grant wishes, it collects them." I'll never forget that. The post had barely any replies. A couple people saying it was a hoax, one saying, "PM me more info," and one that was just, "I used mine. My sister disappeared. It's not what you think." I tried to find more info, but every link in the post was dead. Broken pages, 404 errors, like someone went through and wiped it all clean. That's when the dreams started. They weren't like normal dreams, more like memories that weren't mine. In them, I was standing in a desert, pitch black sky, no stars, just static noise all around me, like an old TV with no signal. And in the middle of the sand, there was that figurine, glowing faint red, like a coal burning under your skin. A voice would whisper something different every night. Sometimes it said things in languages I didn't understand. Other times, it would say my name, over and over, getting louder and angrier. Then one night, it asked, "What do you want?" I didn't say anything, but I thought something. I thought about my dad. I thought about all the times he hurt us. I thought about the time I saw Katie crying in the backyard after he threatened to break her fingers because she forgot to feed the dog. And I thought, I want them gone. Next morning, everything felt off. The house was quiet, like too quiet. I walked downstairs, and there was Katie sitting at the kitchen table, pale as a ghost. I asked where Mom and Dad were. She looked at me, eyes wide, and whispered, "They're not coming back." There was blood in the sink. That was the first thing I noticed after Katie told me Mom and Dad weren't coming back. It wasn't like a crime scene or anything. Not yet. It was subtle. Just a few thin streaks in the porcelain, running toward the drain like red tears, almost like someone had washed their hands. But the faucet was dry. The bathroom smelled like sweat, rust, and something else. Something burned. Katie wouldn't talk. She just sat there, with her cereal, spoon still in the bowl, dry and clinking. Her eyes were empty, like whatever was inside her had been scraped clean. I asked again, "Where are they?" She just looked at me and whispered, "They're not who they were anymore." I went looking. Dad's truck was still in the driveway. Keys were still on the hook. His boots were by the door, muddy, one of them folded in. From that night, he stomped on my leg until I screamed. Mom's phone was still plugged into the wall in the kitchen. I checked it. Last message was a Facebook marketplace listing for an air fryer, the kind of stupid thing she obsessed over. They were home, but they weren't. Now, the attic. I didn't want to go back up there. Every instinct in me screamed to stay away, but I kept thinking about that box, that little obsidian figure with a faceless head, and that crack. Yeah, the crack was real, running right down the center of its face, like it had been split with a chisel, and it had moved, slightly. Before, it was curled like it was bowing, but now it looked like it was sitting up straighter. Right behind it, in the box, there was a second parchment I hadn't noticed before. It was rolled up tightly, almost pressed to the corner, like it didn't want to be seen. I unrolled it, and my hands immediately started shaking. It was a list, not typed, not written in ink. It looked like it was drawn in ash, like someone wrote it with burnt fingers. And on the list, there were 4 names: Rachel McMillan, Corey, Baxter, Henry Porter, Katie. Katie, my sister. I didn't know the other names, but something about them felt intentional, like they weren't random. I googled them. Rachel McMillan, missing 2004, never found. Corey Baxter, stabbed to death by his own brother, 2012, after weeks of hearing voices in the attic. Henry Porter, found in his bathtub with his face peeled off, case still open, 2017. And then Katie. There wasn't a date next to her name like the others, just a symbol next to it. One of those melting Sanskrit-like runes, and it was drawn in red. That's when I heard the scratching. It wasn't loud. It sounded like nails on drywall, slow and methodical, coming from inside the walls, not the roof, not the floor. The walls. I grabbed a flashlight and started following the sound like an idiot in a horror movie. But when I got to the hallway outside Katie's room, it stopped. Dead silence. Not even the fridge was humming. Then her door slammed. Not shut. Open. Like someone had kicked it from the inside. Katie wasn't there. Her window was wide open, the curtains fluttering like someone had just left. I leaned out. No sign of her in the yard. No footprints. No neighbors out. But across the street, standing under the flickering street lamp, was this thing. I still don't know what it was. At first, I thought it was a person, hooded, hunched over like they were shivering. But then it twitched, like something glitching in a video game. Its arms bent backwards, its neck cracked sideways, like it was listening to me, through the bones. And then it whispered, "The debt must be paid." I spent the next 3 days in my room, with the door locked. I didn't eat, barely slept. I didn't even hear Katie come home. She never did. No calls, no messages, no posts on her TikTok. Nothing. Then the smell started. I thought it was the fridge, spoiled milk or something, but it was stronger, like iron and something sweet. I followed it, to the basement. Yeah, I know, basement. Of course it's the basement. I opened the door and immediately gagged. The smell was wet and thick, like walking into a slaughterhouse that someone tried to Febreze. I flipped on the light, and there they were, Mom and Dad, or what was left. They weren't dead, yet, but they weren't alive either. Their bodies were fused together, twisted, skin melted at the shoulders like wax figures left in the sun. Their eyes were wide open, mouths permanently stuck in a scream, but no sound came out. Mom's fingernails were buried in her own neck. Dad had scratched the word "sorry" into his chest, over and over, until it wasn't a word anymore, just blood and grooves and meat. I should have called the cops. I should have run, but I just stared, because behind them, carved into the concrete wall in black gloss, was the effigy. It had grown, no longer a small figurine. It was now life-sized, sitting, watching, with that same crack in its face, now split all the way down, revealing rows of tiny needle-sharp teeth, like glass shards embedded in a scream. And then it spoke, not with words, with memories. My memories. Every hit. Every night I cried in my closet. The time I begged God to kill my father in his sleep. The way Katie's lip trembled when he screamed at her for laughing too loud. It fed on it. You wished for revenge, it said. Now it's yours. But then it said something else. Payment is required. I ran. I drove until my gas light came on. I didn't stop until I reached a Starbucks in Kansas City, where I sat at a table for 4 hours, pretending to read an article on my phone while trying not to cry in public. I checked Katie's socials again. Her Snap score hadn't gone up. Her Instagram bio was gone. And all her posts wiped, like she never existed. I called 911. I told them everything except the part about the genie or the box. They sent someone to the house. When I got the call back, the officer said there was nothing there. No bodies, no blood, just a normal basement, and no trace of Katie. They said, and I quote, "Mom, are you sure you didn't imagine it? Stress does things to people." They thought I was crazy. I wish I was. That night, I stayed at a cheap motel. Still had the parchment and the vial with the black sand. I don't even remember bringing it, but there it was on the table. And the paper, it had new names now. M.E., a girl I didn't know, and a blank spot, with ink still dripping like it was being written in real time. I knew what it meant. The effigy doesn't just take your pain, it takes your name, your story, your existence. And once it starts, it doesn't stop. I don't know how much longer I have, but if any of you out there ever find a black glass figure, cracked and cold, with no face, burn it. Burn it before it hears you, because once you think of what you want, it's already listening. I remember blinking and seeing my hands shaking on the motel bed, holding that scroll again, the one I know I didn't pack. The name at the top wasn't Katie anymore. It was mine. In that same smeared ash ink, underlined so hard it tore the paper. The name underneath it, Hannah V., was still bleeding. Literal wet ink soaking into the parchment, like a wound that wouldn't stop dripping. I googled Hannah V. on instinct. Facebook, Instagram, even her old VS Go popped up. Blonde girl. Looked like someone you'd see at a Target Starbucks, sipping a pink drink, taking selfies in that basic mirror with vines setup. I clicked on her last TikTok. Some dance in front of a movie theater. The background glitched. Literally glitched. The tiles on the floor warped for a second, like reality lagged, and behind her, for one brief frame, was that same thing. The figure, now standing, taller, arms outstretched. I paused it, screenshot it, zoomed in. It was watching. It was always watching. I tried to call her. I don't even know why. I felt like I could stop it if I warned her. Her phone rang twice, then once, then nothing. It was 2:12 a.m. I couldn't sleep. The motel lights flickered like something was wrong with the power, and the air conditioner started humming. Same exact pitch and rhythm from the humming in the attic. I stepped outside for air, lit a cigarette, even though I don't smoke. I just needed my hands to be doing something. The night was cold in that wrong kind of way. Like the temperature was fine, but the air felt wet, like the ground was breathing under me. I looked up. No stars. Clouds. Number. It was just black, like the sky had been painted out. And then I heard it again. That voice, but not in my ears. It was in my spine. It didn't echo. It throbbed. One wish. One hunger. You fed me. I feed again. You called. I answer. The air around me started buzzing. Not sound. Pressure. Like standing next to a subwoofer, cranked to max, but silent. The cigarette burst in my hand. It literally cracked in half, and my fingertips went numb. I turned around and saw the motel door slowly open. Not kicked. not swung, just glided open like it was welcoming something in, and on the TV screen inside was my house. Live feed, inside the attic, camera shaking like someone or something was walking around up there. I swear on my life, there was no camera up there, not even Wi-Fi, but it was real time. I recognized the box, the broken light bulb, the shadow. Then the screen changed. Katie. She was in a room, pitch black, sitting on the floor. Her eyes were wide open, but they looked like they were full of sand. Not metaphorically. Actual black grains spilling from the corners like tears. Her jaw was twitching unnaturally, like someone was trying to move her mouth from inside her skull. And then she spoke, but it wasn't her voice. I'm not her anymore. I'm waiting to be remembered. If you forget me, it eats me. I don't know what happened next. My head felt like it exploded. I blacked out for what felt like minutes, maybe hours. I woke up in a public bathroom near a Chevron station 2 towns over, my knuckles bruised, and someone else's wallet in my pocket. I still don't know how I got there. I don't remember driving. The gas station attendant said I stumbled in screaming something about a girl with no name. And inside that wallet, a driver's license. Hannah V. Birth date, 2005. Location, Twin Falls. Idaho status. Reported missing 2 days ago. I couldn't breathe. I tried to check my phone. Dead. Tried to plug it in. It sparked. Literally sparked and shorted. I ran back to my car and drove until I hit a place with Wi-Fi. Some random Starbucks inside a Target, just like the ones Katie loved. I opened Instagram. The effigy had its own account. Yeah, read that again. At w1sh.feeder, just an account full of black static images with captions written in that same melting script. Only one post had a visible message in English. Feed me. Remember them. Or join them. The latest story post was a reel of Katie's old TikToks, distorted, overlaid with the sound of teeth grinding and whispering. I tried to report the account. It reported me back. Suddenly, my own Instagram account glitched out. My username changed. At Forgotten Point 03, all my photos replaced with grainy images of Katie crying, then her mouth stitched shut, then her face cracked open like dry earth. I logged out. I deleted the app, but I still hear the notifications. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Always at 3:33 a.m. 2 days later, I went back to the house. I had to. I needed answers, closure. I brought gasoline and a lighter. I didn't care what was inside. I was going to burn it. All of it. When I pulled into the driveway, the grass was dead. Like, literally dead. Gray. The whole yard looked like it had been dipped in ash, and someone, or something, had nailed dozens of printouts to the garage door. All my texts, all my online rants about my parents, DMs I'd sent to friends saying I wanted them to die. All of it. Printed, posted, pinned like trophies. The front door was open. I walked inside. The floor was damp. My footsteps left no echo, like the house was swallowing sound. The walls pulsed. They were breathing. The air was thick with incense and something foul, like burnt pennies. Then I heard it, from the basement, gnawing, wet, chewing. I made myself go down, step by step. Each creak of the stair sounded like a heartbeat getting closer. When I reached the bottom, it was pitch black, but I could see everything. Mom and Dad were back, but wrong. They were hung on the wall, flesh woven into the wallpaper, like vines. Eyes open, no pupils. Mouths stretched wide, whispering secrets in voices that were not theirs. One of their arms was bending upwards, endlessly, forming a loop into the ceiling, like it had no bones anymore. And in the center of the room, where the furnace used to be, was the effigy, now towering like a god. The face was cracked completely open, revealing a swirling void of teeth and memories, all spinning like a cyclone. Screams echoed from inside, screams that sounded like Katie, like Hannah, like me. And then it spoke again. One wish, one meal. You didn't wish for death. You wished for silence, I screamed. I threw the gasoline, lit the match. The fire rose, but it didn't spread. It just hung in the air, like it was waiting for permission. Then the effigy said, "You're not done feeding me." The flames reversed, like the match unburned. The fire sucked back into the walls, and the room got colder. I don't remember escaping. I woke up 3 states away in a truck stop bathroom. No ID, no wallet. But in my coat pocket was a new list, written in blood. Hannah V. Taken Katie, dissolved me, feeding you, watching. If you're reading this and you feel watched, like something's behind your screen, breathing, waiting, don't scroll, don't blink. It's already seen you. You are part of the wish. There's a point where fear stops feeling like fear. It stops tingling in your fingertips. It stops making your chest tight or your voice tremble. It becomes something else, like rot in your thoughts, like your brain is decomposing from the inside and leaking out through your memories. You stop screaming, not because you're brave, but because you know. No one's listening anymore. I wasn't even sure I was real by this point. 3 states from home, no ID, no phone, no way to prove I ever existed. I checked into a cheap roadside inn under the name Eli, because it was on the side of the pencil the front desk gave me. I hadn't slept in 72 hours, but when I did, I dreamed in third person. I watched myself curled in the motel bed, clutching that cursed parchment, while something, that thing, hovered above me. It didn't touch me. It didn't need to. It just watched. The crack in its face pulsed like a heartbeat. Each time it pulsed, I saw memories leaving me, vanishing into it, like whispers into a vacuum. The time I scraped my knee learning to ride a bike. The way Katie used to hum the Adventure Time theme song while brushing her hair. The moment I kissed someone behind the bleachers and felt like the world disappeared. Gone, like pages torn out of a book. I woke up with blood running from my ears and one of my molars on the pillow. Perfect. No cavity. Just gone. Like something inside me was slowly unthreading my soul. That morning, I walked. No destination, no reason. Just walked until I found a gas station with a broken ice machine humming in that same low rhythmic chanting sound. The sign said, Cedar Crossings, but that town doesn't exist on any map. I asked the clock how long the town had been there. He didn't answer. He just pointed to a flyer taped to the window. Missing. You. It was my face, but the name below it said, Rebecca Gray, missing since 1991, and the phone number had only 5 digits. I backed away. My legs buckled. My stomach turned to cement, because that's when I noticed the mirror behind the counter. It didn't show me. It showed Katie, but she wasn't a child anymore. She was older, hollow. Her skin was thin, paper thin, and her eyes had no whites left, just shimmering black liquid swirling like ink in a jar. She looked directly at me. Then she spoke through the mirror. Mouth never moved. Voice was inside my teeth. He's still hungry. He wants names now, new ones, not yours. You fed him pain. Now he wants innocence. I vomited on the sidewalk and ran. Later that night, I found a cracked laptop in a dumpster behind a shuttered Five Guys. It booted. Windows 7. The only tab open was an archived deep web forum called Obsidian Circle. Not on tour, just floating there like a ghost file. The most recent thread. Feeding the effigy. How to survive after your wish. It had over 6,000 comments, but none of them were dated. The usernames weren't names, just keyboard smashes, like static from a broken radio. I read the first comment. You made the wish, didn't you? You thought it would only take them, but it takes what you loved most first. Then it takes what you forgot. Then it eats your future. Then another. I wished for my abuser to feel my pain. Now I'm watching my daughter dissolve into sand every night. She cries, but there's no mouth anymore. Another. I burned the effigy. Thought it was over, but the fire turned black. My sister came back, but she's not her. She asks for strangers to come over, says she's hungry, says the smiling God needs new stories, and one that still makes my stomach freeze when I remember it. Once the effigy tastes your voice, it learns to speak in it. It will answer texts, post for you, smile in photos. Soon, it'll be the only version of you people remember. I checked my socials again. From a stranger's phone I stole while they weren't looking at a subway in El Paso. My Instagram had new posts, not mine, but they were me. In them, I was smiling, happy, alive, hanging out at some theme park with people I didn't recognize. But something was wrong. Everyone's mouths were stitched shut, literally. Red thread, grinning, bleeding smiles. And in the comments, I saw usernames from the Obsidian Circle forum, commenting like it was normal. Looking good, Rebecca. You're feeding well. Love your smile. Keep offering. I knew I had to go back to where it started. The attic, the box, the thing I unleashed. I bought a bus ticket using a fake name, scratched onto a gift card I found on the road. Rode for 13 hours without speaking. Just watched the world blur by and wondered if any of it was real, or if I had already been eaten, and this was just the digestive process. I arrived at my old neighborhood, or what was left of it. My house was there, still standing, but the trees were dead. The mailbox melted. Every window was boarded up, except the attic's, which glowed faint red, like a coal smoldering behind a veil. I walked in. No one stopped me. No cops, no neighbors, no cars, just silence. Inside, the walls were covered in portraits, all drawn in blood and ash. People, strangers, children, some missing eyes, some with hands stitched over their mouths, some with their skulls split vertically, blooming like horrific flowers, and every single one had a name under it. One of them was me, but drawn younger, like a version of me that never existed, smiling, dressed in a school uniform I never owned, holding a red balloon, and under it, written in melted wax, version number 3, the Rebecca archive. I heard scratching, the sound of something digging from inside the ceiling. I looked up. There was a hatch now, new, padlocked from the outside. I climbed. Inside the attic, the air was thick and dry, like old velvet soaked in salt. The effigy was no longer a statue. It was sprawling. Its limbs were stretching through the walls. One of its hands was curled around a VHS tape player that played the same 5-second loop of my dad screaming as his face peeled into pixels, and its head split entirely down the center, was now a mirror. I saw myself, then Katie, then someone else, a girl I'd never seen before, stitched into my reflection like we were all being fused together. Then the voice came again, not out loud, inside the bones of the house. You gave me a taste. Now I want your voice. Every word you type, every scream you don't let out, every time you want to be seen. I will be you, better than you ever were. It opened its mouth, not like a jaw, like a curtain tearing open, revealing a spiral staircase made of teeth and rib cages. And at the bottom, I saw all of them, Katie, Hannah, Corey, Rachel, all of them standing still, heads tilted, mouths moving, but no sound. Then Katie looked up. She mouthed, "You made the wish. You keep it alive." The effigy stepped forward, off the wall, off the floor. It became liquid shadow, pouring toward me like a flood of everything I ever regretted. I threw the parchment into its chest. I screamed my name, my real name, not Rebecca, not Eli, not forgotten. And then I said, "I wish I never made the wish." It paused, trembled, cracked. Just for a second, the house screamed with it. Every nail popped, every memory flickered, and then silence. I woke up in a hospital in Santa Fe. A nurse said I was found unconscious in an alley. I had no ID, no name in their system. I looked in the mirror. My eyes weren't mine. They were black, swirling, and inside them, I saw it, still feeding, still remembering. Don't say your name out loud tonight. Don't look into mirrors too long. And if you feel something watching from your phone screen, it's not the front camera. They say trauma makes you forget. But this thing, whatever it is, feeds on the forgetting. That's how it survives. Not just off pain, not just off the screams we hold in until they bleed into migraines and insomnia. Number. It feeds off erasure. It licks its cracked, bleeding lips every time someone is erased from memory, like they were never real to begin with. That's what it wanted. Not revenge, consumption, an infinite buffet of names, faces, screams, and stories that will never be told again. I was kept in that hospital for 3 days, or maybe 3 months. I don't even know anymore. The clocks never moved. The sun never rose. The nurses never blinked. They just smiled. The same smile. All of them. Plastic. Wide. Wrong. Like someone told them what smiling was, and they imitated it with a corpse's memory. On the second night, a woman came into my room. No name tag, just a clipboard and a black dress. She didn't ask for my name. She said it. She said the one I haven't heard since I was 5. The one I'd buried so deep that even I forgot it. She said, Elias Gabriel Gray, born September 3rd, died. Eventually, I froze. I wanted to ask how she knew, but instead she opened the clipboard, showed me a page, a form, a contract, a release. You signed this the moment you wished, she said. It's not a genie. That's just the word your mind gave it. It's older than belief, older than time. It's the story that stories fear. I asked her why it hadn't killed me yet. She just looked at me and smiled wider. You're not food. You're the chef. Then she left, and the wall started breathing again. When I finally escaped, the hospital was gone. Literally, gone. Just a field of tall yellow grass stretching in all directions, under a black sky filled with nothing. No moon, no stars, just a presence hovering above like a hole in reality. In the distance, I saw it. A library, but not any kind of library you know. No windows, no doors, no lights. Just a pulsating cube of obsidian glass floating 2 feet off the ground. And inside, the archive. I didn't walk. I was pulled, dragged across that plain by memories, not mine, Children laughing in languages I don't speak. A mother humming while dissolving into ash. A man screaming as he forgot his wife's name mid-sentence and never remembered her again. Cube opened, not like a door, like a wound tearing open. Inside, shelves of flesh, not wood, not metal, flesh, stacked, stitched, still warm. And every book was a face, stretched tight over bone, mouths twitching like they were trying to speak from the page. The effigy was waiting in the center. It had changed again. No longer a statue, no longer humanoid. Now it was a spiral, made of every version of me that ever could have been. Me as a boy, me as a girl, me as a corpse, me as a god, all twisting into one infinite scream that fed on its own echo. I tried to run, but my feet sunk into the floor, which wasn't a floor. It was made of old prayers, spoken in desperation by people who were never heard. The effigy moved toward me. It didn't speak. It projected, the room filled with images. Katie, now completely glass, shattering in reverse, her mouth whispering, "I'm still in here." Over and over. My father, still alive, but his skin had been replaced by television static, showing loops of him begging for forgiveness no one would ever hear. My mother, blindfolded, feeding teeth to a baby that had no face, only a mirror where its head should be. Myself, right in this, again, 1,000 versions, all ending the same way. You are the archive now. And then it hit me. I was never meant to survive. I was meant to store. A vault, a walking database of agony, revenge, and erased histories. The effigy doesn't kill. It indexes. Every soul I thought it devoured, still alive, but rewritten, reassigned, put in someone else's skin, someone else's feed. You've probably seen them on your timeline, on those random viral videos of people acting weird, those glitches in TikTok live streams where the person suddenly says a name that isn't theirs, the haunted eyes in the back of Starbucks, looking like they just woke up inside the wrong life. They're in there, still waiting, still screaming, and I brought them. The effigy opened its chest. Inside was a throne, made of phones, laptops, burned out monitors, every device that's ever said, "I wish." I sat down. I didn't mean to. I just did. It whispered through the walls of my skull. You are the storyteller now. Make them remember. Feed me with belief. And now I'm here, typing this, not on a laptop, not in a room. I don't even know if I still exist, but I know you're reading this. I know the screen is glowing. I know your phone is buzzing, even if you didn't get a message, because that's him, the one inside the wish. He sees you, and he's hungry for your stories now. He wants your secrets, your regrets, your one moment you'd do anything to take back, because the second you think it, the second you feel that pang of revenge or longing or pain you never let out, he appears, not in front of you, not in a puff of smoke, but behind your thoughts, whispering, "What do you want most?" And when you answer, even in silence, you feed him. I'm not real anymore. I'm just another name in the archive. But if you forget me, if you move on like this was just a story, he wins. So write my name down. Say it out loud. Remember Katie. Remember Hannah. Remember Elias Gabriel Gray. Because the moment the world forgets us completely, he feasts. And then he finds you